Hello, friends. Welcome. My name is Susan Blackwell. I am your host for today's virtual HD Live in Schools National Educators Conference, brought to you by the Metropolitan Opera. Typically, we do this live, and while we miss seeing you all in person, we're so excited that so many more folks from near and far and that can join us in this virtual context. We've got folks joining us today from Bulgaria, China, Colombia, Germany, India, Israel, Italy, Japan, Mexico, the Philippines, Singapore, South Africa, Turkey, the UK, and we've got attendees from all 50 states here in the US. So many friends, new and old, joining us today. Again, educators, supporters of opera, lovers of music, new friends. Welcome. We're so happy that you're joining us. And we want to also welcome established members of our HD Live in Schools community. It's always a joy to connect with you. Again, my name is Susan Blackwell. If we have not met before, permit me to introduce myself. I am a Broadway film and television actor. I'm a writer. I'm an interviewer. I'm a teacher specializing in creativity and communication, and I'm an educator. I've partnered with the Met Opera Education Department for about 4 years now as a teaching artist and a facilitator. And speaking of the Metropolitan Opera Education Department, I am so eager to introduce them to you. But before I do, let's take a look at this video that shares a bit about what they did with their summer. Let's take a look. Hello, campers, and welcome to the Met Opera Global Summer Camp. We have got opera lovers from all 7 continents joining us for this global summer camp.
I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia.
And I'm from Sandusky, Ohio.
I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina.
We live in Barstown, Kentucky. I'm from Bangor, Maine.
From Estonia.
Bergland.
We are from Kenya.
I live in the Bronx.
Vancouver, BC.
New Delhi, India.
Kyiv, Ukraine.
New York City.
And I'm from Lisbon, Portugal.
We're going to be exploring Donizetti's comic opera Don Pasquale.
Welcome to Warm-Ups with Miss Bergland.
Hi campers, it's Howard, and I'm a pianist and assistant conductor at the Metropolitan Opera.
Today, you will bring to life the characters of Rusalka,
This is my costume of blood.
When I saw this dress, I knew it was perfect.
I sing even higher than a tenor. I'm a countertenor. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but most importantly, we're going to make cookies.
Produce yourself. Make your friends do it.
We woke up Juliet and they set off to another country.
Oh, my heart was broken.
Now this story is about a cat whose owner is an opera singer.
We were so cozy on the couch till she bit my hand and I said ouch.
The story I'm going to be reading today is Diva Dolores and the Opera House Mouse.
The way one grows and expands in one's life is by learning and expanding your knowledge at all times.
This is Don Pasquale Exploding Volcano.
If you make a mistake, the last thing you need to do is spend the next 10 minutes worrying about the mistake you just made. You just have to keep going.
What made you become an opera singer?
The whole point of sharing my gift is joy.
Hold on to the thing that makes you love opera.
These are the most authentically human things we have about us. These are our instruments of healing.
If you have this in your heart, you should absolutely go for it. You are the generation who will make this an even better world to live in.
Love that video. Before I bring on the Met Ed team, please note that everyone will be talking today. I'll be asking some very specific questions. So listen closely because you might be the next person to answer. So first, it's my pleasure to bring on this Met Opera Education team. Would you welcome Marsha Drummond, Dan Marshall, and Dr. Kamala Schelling. Friends, hello! There's my team. Welcome. Just to begin, can each of you tell our attendees your name and your title, and we'll hear from Marcia, then Dan, then Kamala.
Great. I am Marcia Drummond. I'm the Director of Education and Engagement at the Metropolitan Opera.
And I'm Dan Marshall, and I'm the Manager of Education and Engagement at the Met.
And I'm Kamala Shelley, and I am the Manager of Educational Content.
So happy to see your faces. So here's my first question for you, and really everybody we speak to today. How are you doing really? How are you doing really? Marcia, let's start with you. How are you doing really?
Well, I have to say overall, pretty good. I'm thinking in new ways. I'm trying to connect in new ways. It's a challenge. I got a lot of faith and hope, and and the future is bright. I just got to be patient. But all in all, I'm going to give myself a good B+.
I like it. As an educator, I like it. Yeah. Dan, how are you doing really?
I'm great. I feel like we're all kind of in a constant state of evolution, but mostly today I am excited to at least be in the same virtual space as my favorite teachers on the planet, the HD Live in Schools educators. I love you all. I know I can't see you right now, but I'm really, it's bittersweet that we're not all together at the Opera House this year, but you have my heart.
I love it. And Dr. Kamala Schelling, how are you doing really?
I feel like I vacillate wildly between a space that is exhausted and grief-stricken and terrified, and a space that is feeling incredible personal growth and insight and inspiration. And the weirdest space of all is when those two converge, and I exist in like the overlapping part of the Venn diagram. But I think today I am solidly in the growth and inspiration space because I get to be here talking to our teachers, remembering why it is we do what we do, why we get up every morning. And I'm so thrilled to be here.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful answers. Marcia, can you tell us a bit about what the Met Opera education team does?
Well, Susan, we do many things. And I think that the best way to describe it is we find ways and programs and partnerships and activities, and we create ways to leverage the magnificence of the Met out into the community. So, 14 years I've worked at the Met, and I'm still thrilled to be in those halls. And I want to make sure that that translates to everyone in the community.
Love it. Dan.
And by community, I just have to say, our new community is international.
Right.
So we're super excited about that.
We're going to be talking a lot today about challenges, of course, but also possibilities during this time. And that is one of the most exciting possibilities. We've got international babies. Dan, can you tell us a bit about what the HD Live in Schools program entails?
Sure. HD Live in Schools presents educators and students throughout the United States with opportunities to view the Met Opera glorious, stunning HD broadcasts, either in their school or in their local cinema. And we create curriculum and professional development opportunities for teachers and students, and we give them tickets. And this year, that means we're giving them licenses to Met Opera On Demand so they can view the entire catalog of Met Opera On Demand, Met Opera HD awesomeness.
That is amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing. So I want you all to work your thoughts backwards. I know you had a lot of, all of us had so much success and happiness and feeling of connectedness come out of the summer camp experience. But think about right before that. Think about where you were at when we were sort of in lockdown and, the opera can't perform live right now. Talk to us a bit about the challenges that you face in your work as a result of what's happening in the world right now.
I mean, the biggest challenge is not being able to be in the same room with my colleagues. So, I love them, and I think we bounce ideas off each other. And I think, what has surprised me is that we've been able to be pretty creative on Zoom and remote communication, and all of that has been great. But there is something about that physical proximity to people that I think gives it just another dynamic to creativity. So that's been a challenge. But I think we're doing okay.
How about you, Dan? What challenges have you faced in your work since all of this swirl has begun?
It's the challenge of staying true to kind of the structure and the rigor of what Marcia and Peter Gelb have created with HD Live in schools, and also staying in growth mode. So we're always we're learning new software, we're learning new teacher technologies. Our teachers, many of whom are here today, are constantly saying, check out this new app, check out this new piece of software. So it's trying to adhere to what we've built and keep that moving, keep that chugging, as well as learning. So that's the push and pull for me.
Yeah. And Kamala, will you talk about the possibilities that you all have discovered during this time, and maybe a little bit about how those possibilities lived within the summer camp and beyond?
I would love to. When people ask about summer camp, I like to quote that line from the Phantom Toll Booth, where they say there are so many things that are possible as long as you don't know they're impossible. Had we gone into summer camp knowing that we were going to produce over the course of 8 weeks, which it turns out 8 weeks is long, 8 weeks, we were going to produce over 100 original hours of television content for an international audience, we would have said, no way, you're crazy. That's not what we do. That's not what we're trained for. And yet, we were there. It was the end of May. Something had to happen. And we just started putting pieces together and got out of our own way and realized that we had these remarkable teachers in our community who we could call on, and also discovered just how creative kids can be if you get out of their way. So I think coming out of it at the other end, after this experience, we've all had the opportunity to rethink what it means to be an arts educator in this community, rethink what it means to create content that is for teachers and now for students, which we've never done before. And so because nobody told us at the beginning that this was impossible, we expanded what we do I'm on 86th Street in New York, and it's sometimes noisy. Just expanded in all these new ways. And I feel like I have grown so much, a lot of growing pains, but I've grown so much as a thinker and as an educator through this process.
I love it. I want to stress, and I observed this from the inside out, that though it ended up being so joyous and we ended up connecting with a global community of opera lovers and music lovers, there were some sleepless nights. There were many times when we didn't know what we were doing. It wasn't always an easy learning curve to navigate it, but I'm so proud of you all and the teachers and the way that you came together to make something. You just created something so beautiful. So I know we're all very thankful to you for that. And really quick, before I let you loose, will each of you just tell us how you're taking care of yourself during this time? Marcia, how are you taking care of yourself during this time?
Well, I'm cooking more than ever. So, for a New York City person, to have all my meals cooked is such a rare thing. So I want to think that I'm getting healthier, one meal at a time.
That's inspiring. Kamala, how are you taking care of yourself?
I have 4 words for you, Susan. Buffy the Vampires.
It's not what I was expecting, but sure, that's also inspiring. Dan Marshall, how are you taking care of yourself?
I did get a pandemic puppy. I mean, a little bit before the pandemic, but so he's been keeping me sane. And I've been going on these really gargantuan runs for me on the East River, which is right over there, and just having a great time. So books on audio.
Yeah, so you're working your body and your brain at the same time.
Yeah,
I love it. I love you, team. You're going to get out of here now, but you're going to be behind the scenes making the magic happen. We'll see you in a little bit. To kick it all off, I'm so excited to introduce the general manager of the Metropolitan Opera, Peter Gelb.
Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm very well. I can't tell you how happy I am to see you. It is a joy to see your face.
Well, I'm very happy to see you. I was just watching your interview with Marcia and Kamala and Dan, which was great to see. And I'd give them an A+.
I think Marsh was being a little unfair to herself. I give her an A+ too.
And you an A+ as well.
Well, I thank you. I will happily take that grade.
I'm very grateful for all the efforts that you and Marcia and her team have undertaken and accomplished on behalf of the Met, and on behalf of opera, and on behalf of educating and bringing the cultural uplifting joy of opera to so many people, so many young people, and all the great teachers who are participating in this program. I'm really thank them all so very much.
Well, I will take that light and I shine it back on this amazing community of artists and teachers and the Met Ed team who are doing extraordinary work. And frankly, Peter, I've seen during this time how people who engage themselves in work like that, how it is this time is challenging, to be sure, but it's changing people's experience of this time. And I've also noticed, conversely, people that are not engaged in that way, how this time can really pull you under. So I'm happy to be part of that community and that team. Peter, I'm going to be asking everybody that I speak to today some very specific questions so that we can all connect and share and hopefully gain inspiration from each other. We know who you are. You are Peter Gelb. You are the general manager of the Metropolitan Opera. I'd love to ask, how are you doing really? How are you?
Well, I'm still Peter Gelb. I'm still the general manager of the Metropolitan Opera.
You're nailing it.
However, I'm not the same as I was 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah.
The season of the Metropolitan Opera, were we living in normal times, which of course we're not, would have started about 2 weeks ago. And today would be a day where I would be at the Met for a double header of a matinee and an evening performance following it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm living in a completely changed life. Yet I'm busier than ever. Although, as much as I admire Zoom, I wish I didn't spend my entire life on it, which I am spending a lot of time on it. These are incredible times. I mean, in every possible way, politically, socially, culturally, health-wise, nothing is what it was, or nothing is what it should be. And hopefully things will get better sooner rather than later. I have to have I kind of like the education team, we all sort of hit the ground running back in March when our world came to an end and we had to invent a new world.
Yeah.
And the new world, certainly led by the educational efforts, which are so important, but it also encompasses, when it comes to the Met, so many other things that I have to take care of. So even though my nights are different, I'm not at performances. I am busy from pre-dawn until evening every day, trying to carve out the future for this opera company and to keep it sustainable and really alive, so that the future will be there waiting for us when the health crisis is over. Because I believe that we have to come back artistically more powerful, more relevant, more connected to society than ever before, which is why we recently announced our 21-22 season, even though it's a year away from now, which is full of contemporary operatic experiences, the likes of which haven't been seen at the Met since the 1920s in terms of new work. Opera is ready creatively to explode in new ways.
Yeah.
And ways that are connected to our society, both in terms of the classic productions classic operas that are created with new productions, and in terms of new work. There's more creativity in composition in opera today than there has been in maybe 50 or 100 years. So the Met has to ride that wave forward and since we're viewed as kind of the mothership of opera in the world today, we have a great responsibility to the art form and to our audiences. And so even though we're not performing, I'm busier than ever.
Yeah. Will you talk a little bit about the specific challenge? I mean, some of this already, it seems redundant to say this, but the specific challenges you faced and the possibilities that you've surfaced in response to some of those challenges.
Well, I mean, there's a very real, somewhat mundane challenge. I mean, it sounds mundane, it's not mundane to me, which is just the economics. We have to survive. And, we're very grateful to the global audience that supports the Met, which has kept us going during this period where we have no revenue from the box office. Remarkably, once we started streaming operas every night to our adult as well as our young audience, the public responded in such a positive way. We have 30,000 new donors who are supporting the Met, which is incredible considering we haven't even been performing. But these are people who are so grateful to the Met being there for them. We filled a lot of lives, particularly in people, and we're still in the midst of this, and it's going to go on for a long time. But at the beginning, before people got into any kind of routine, everyone was sort of desperate, I think, and not to say they were not still desperate, but they were desperate in a different way. They had no idea what to expect. And I think that the fact that the Met sort of led the charge in terms of providing cultural content on a daily basis was nourishment for their souls. And people in turn wanted to support the Met. And now we face a whole season without performances. But hopefully with all the ways in which we connect with the public, with our pay-per-view concerts we're now producing around the world, and our continuation of nightly streams, and our radio broadcasts and Metropolitan Opera on Demand, all of these activities will keep the Met and its audience together until we're ready to actually perform again, because that's what it's all about in the end, is performing. We're we're a mainstay of the performing arts, and you can't have the performing arts without the performers and the public in the same space. And all these digital activities are fantastic, but they're sort of the icing on the cake. We have to get to the real thing.
Yeah.
And we will.
I love hearing you talk about how you are using your capacity right now to sort of carve out what the future looks like. And I love hearing you talk about you're reflecting something that I've heard from myself and several other people, which is using this time to really examine and contemplate what the future might look like. And it might look very differently. Can you tell me about something that you're really excited about on that upcoming season?
Well, what I'm most excited about are the 3 new operas that will be receiving their Met premieres. Again, which is the most number of Met premieres of contemporary operas since 1928. And part of a pattern that we'll see more and more of in the future. But beginning with the very opening night of that 21-22 season, a year from now, or a little less than a year from now, September of 21, will be the opening night of the Met season, will be the Metropolitan Opera premiere of Terence Blanchard's "A Fire Shut Up in My Bones," which is Terence is one of the great African-American composers, and amazingly, the first African-American composer to be featured at the Met, which is not a record we're proud of, but one that we're rectifying. His work, "Fire Shut Up in My Bones," which is an adaptation of Charles Blow's autobiographical memoir. Charles Blow, of course, is a distinguished columnist for the New York Times. Yeah. And he wrote this very moving kind of coming-of-age, rite of passage book about his youth growing up in the South, and how a pivotal moment in his life occurred and he chose the right path, and it would set him on the path of being the successful journalist that he is today. But the Terence created an opera about an adaptation of the story, which had its premiere at the St. Louis Opera a little over a year ago. We immediately commissioned it back then, commissioned Terence to expand the opera somewhat in terms of the actual content, and the plan was to present this at the Met in a future season, maybe in 2023, to give them time. Opera always takes a long time, but with everything that's going on in the world today, the social upheaval, the need for change, I asked Terence if he would consider accelerating his writing and composing so we can actually open that 21-22 season with his work. And really, it's just a symbolic, more than a symbolic, a very real gesture to what is going on right now, and to demonstrate the Met's commitment to diversity and to embracing African American artists in a bigger way than we have previously. We've also recently added 3 African American composers to our commissioning program who will be developing works in the coming seasons. And this production of Fire Shut Up in My Bones will be co-directed by James Robinson, the original director of it, together with Camille Brown, the brilliant African American choreographer and now director, who will also be choreographing the work. So that, combined with Matthew O'Coin's opera Eurydice, which is it's this Orpheus myth, but told from the perspective of his girlfriend Eurydice, and the opera Hamlet, which is by the Australian composer Brett Dean, which was a big hit in Glyndebourne a couple of years ago when I saw it, are kind of cornerstones of the Met season 21-22, and really reflect how the Met is changing. 20 years ago, this would have been unheard of, or 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
That's right.
But last season, before it ended prematurely, the 2 biggest hits we had last season at the box office were Philip Glass's Akhenaten, which also was coming back in 21-22 because it was so successful. Every performance was sold out. And Porgy and Bess, also, which had every performance sold out, and which we're bringing back to 21-22 as well. But it was a very strong signal that contemporary opera is much more important today than it was in recent decades, and that audiences want it. They want opera. Opera cannot just continue living off of its of the glories of the past. For opera to be a successful art form, it has to be new. It has to break new ground, and that's what we're committed to doing more than ever before.
Yeah, I know that this time is so challenging in so many different ways, but when I hear you speak, I have to think, could these changes have occurred without this significant disruption, without sort of the social upheaval that's happening? So I have to say, I love how you are just meeting this head on, and how you are carving out the future of opera and this organization. I think it's really tremendous. But also, I think, whoa, what a responsibility. I'm glad it's you, glad it's not me, because it seems very intense. It seems very, very rigorous and very intense, which leads me to my next question, which is, how are you taking care of yourself now?
Before I answer that, I just in response to what you were saying, which I appreciate, and I'm very glad that I am in this position. I'm very happy to have this responsibility and bear the weight of this challenge. But I think all the social change that is going on has accelerated the process. We were heading in this direction, but there's no question we've got a lot of extra energy and fuel because of what's happening in the world today. And as to how am I taking care of myself, I also have started cooking more at night.
Is that right?
Since I'm not sitting in the opera, I find I love making pasta, so I do that. I have a bicycle. I ride it around the park when I have a moment, and I play tennis. And those are the key things. And I'm very fortunate to have my wonderful wife, who normally is globe-trotting around the world. I mean, conducting, and it's very sad because many of her gigs have been canceled because of the pandemic. But on the other hand, we're together, which so I feel so sorry for people who are alone. I'm very grateful to have my partner with me.
Yeah. I love that you love your job. I love that you're game to take on this responsibility during this time. I'm so happy that you're in that position of leadership. Peter, before I let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't express gratitude to you on behalf of the teachers in our HD Live in Schools program. The teachers are ecstatic to have free access to the Met Opera on demand during this time. And I just want to thank you on their behalf for making that happen. It is a really remarkable resource. And thank you for everything you're doing right now.
Well, thank you, but it's the teachers who deserve the thanks, because they are doing, really such great work. Really, the work of that society needs today. We live in a world which is so difficult. I mean, in this country, so bereft of feeling sometimes, and to have teachers who, in spite of all the difficulties of society, and that they're really the heroes they're the first responders in terms of culture and education, and they're the glue that will keep society and civilization together. And we're happy to provide a few tools to help them.
It's beautiful. Peter, thank you so much for your time this morning. I hope that you go do something fun and sunny with this beautiful Saturday.
I've got a little work to do, but maybe later.
Of course you do. You're Peter Gelb.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you, Peter.
Take care. All the best.